Today on Upfront, Donald Trump plans a new play in Wisconsin. But is the state and the election still within his reach? I'll talk about the state of the Trump campaign with one of his most prominent Wisconsin supporters, Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clarke. Plus, after the election, what happens next for Republicans? It's my question for Republican Congressman Reed Ribble. And hackers try to breach state election systems. Today on Upfront, what's being done to safeguard voting in Wisconsin?
Covering the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Upfront with Mike Goucher.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Upfront. Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump returns to Wisconsin tomorrow with a campaign stop in Green Bay. The visit follows a week's worth of claims made by women who said Trump groped them or made unwelcome sexual advances, charges Trump strongly denied. And it comes on the heels of that 2005 videotape of Trump making lewd remarks about women. In response, Trump has hammered Democrat Hillary Clinton for her treatment of women who claim they were victims of Bill Clinton's sexual misconduct. He also blasted the Clinton campaign for comments made in private emails that were made public by WikiLeaks. The latest Marquette University Law School poll released last week showed Trump trailing Democrat Hillary Clinton by 7 points. So, with just over 3 weeks to go until the election, we're asking, can Donald Trump still win Wisconsin? My guest is prominent Trump supporter, Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clarke. Sheriff, it's good to have you back on the program.
Mike, it's my pleasure.
So do you think Wisconsin, do you think the nation is still winnable for Donald Trump?
Sure it is. You know, the polls are all over the map. I don't pay much attention to the polls. I've always said, you know, I'm a veteran of elections myself. The only poll that matters right now will be the one on November 8th when the American people get to go and cast their ballot. Other than that, I don't know the methodology. So I'm not discounting it because they're saying that Trump's behind. It's even when the ones that were saying Trump was ahead. You know, a couple of weeks ago, he was ahead by 2 in Wisconsin. I still said, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. They just got to keep fighting.
Do you think these claims involving women who say they had unwanted sexual advances made toward them, do you think these claims have damaged Trump in a permanent sort of way?
Not permanent at all. As a matter of fact, it has rallied his base, including women who support Trump, came out swinging, came out with pitchforks and torches, to back their candidate. Look, this is the kind of stuff, this is standard operating procedure for the Democrats. They do this every election, every presidential election, try to trash the Republican nominee. I'm not going to, you know, concern myself anyway. You know, some of the stuff he said, of course, was inappropriate. It was 11 years ago, which doesn't make it okay. Why are they using that now? But you mentioned Bill Clinton, who did not just talk lewd and say some off-color comments. He actually acted them out in the Oval Office in real time. Everybody knows it. And at the time, Mike, what was interesting is the same people who have this full, attitude of being appalled by what he said. When Bill Clinton did it, they said, well, it's just about sex. Well, it's not really our business. Well, that's between him and her. Nothing to see here move along. But now all of a sudden, it's a big deal.
But Bill Clinton was impeached. I mean, that did happen.
Wasn't removed from office. And you know, his wife now is the nominee to be the president of the United States, who played a role in that because she went to his defense. She trashed people like Juanita Broaddrick, like Kathleen Willey, and Monica Lewinsky, you know, to defend that name and to defend, his presidency. So she played a role in it. And that's why I think for Donald to look at her and say, yeah, look at the pot calling the kettle black here. For you to bring this up is shameful, and it is because she played a role in defending her husband's sexual proclivities.
You do a fair amount of tweeting. That's a social media device that you use from time to time. I want to quote something that you said in this past week. You said, GOP leaders are still tone deaf. They do not care or are clueless about what the base wants. My question is, can you win the election just by having a fired up base? Don't you have to expand that electorate?
The base, okay, but not the GOP politicians. They don't have much influence. The reason why we're at where we are today, when I say we, I'm talking conservative. I don't belong to the Republican Party. But it's because the GOP politicians, the establishment in Washington, D.C., who's the establishment, the big donors, the party elites, and the GOP politicians that run that party, they tuned out on the base, on the voters. 2 years ago, when we gave them the Senate, they said, give us the Senate and we'll start taking care of business, and they didn't do it. So that's why the base said, no, we've had it. We're not coming back again. This is our guy, and they're going to stick with him. But I'll tell you, I think it's shameful. I really do. For some of these GOP people that jump ship over the weekend over this instead of standing and fighting. You look at some of the stuff that Mrs. Bill Clinton has been accused of: corruption, lying, the Clinton Foundation, the email, the secret server. You look at all that stuff. Not one prominent Democrat politician ever abandoned her. I'm real big on loyalty. Once I give my word, and I did to Donald Trump, then you can count on me, and that's what's important in my world anyway.
Do you think Speaker Ryan was wrong to disinvite Donald Trump to that event in Elkhorn?
I don't know if it's a right or wrong situation. I say this: one team, one goal. Okay, and you got to fight for you. You don't have to agree with what he says. You don't have to, Speaker Ryan didn't have to come out and say anything positive about some of those comments that were made 11 years ago. Just say, hey, look, this is about the country. This is about runaway spending. This is about excessive regulation. This is about putting people back to work, jump-starting this economy, protecting our borders, and you go into that message there to remind people. See, we're in such a lewd place right now with this campaign. It sickens the American people. There are a lot of people, maybe some that support Trump, but maybe some that support Clinton as well. They're going to bail us and just say, you know what, the hell with all of them.
I got to ask you a quick question. You referred to her as Mrs. Bill Clinton. Hillary Clinton is Mrs. Bill Clinton, and you do that pretty consistently in tweets. Why not Secretary Clinton or Senator Clinton? Why do you call her Mrs. Bill Clinton?
Well, that's who she is. Look, she has arrived at this point here because of the Clinton name, and she has protected that name, and trashing other women to do that, to save that presidency. She's the senator of New York, a former senator of New York because of the Clinton name. She's the former Secretary of State because of the Clinton name. She has dragged Bill around on this campaign, so it's convenient for that, but then all of a sudden, for the other stuff, she wants to distance herself. She's not a self-made woman. All right, she's where she's at because of Bill Clinton.
You mentioned loyalty is very important to you. Donald Trump featured you in one of his convention videos. Would you like to work, if Donald Trump were the president, would you like to work in a Trump administration?
Well, look, I'd be honored to serve Donald Trump in his administration. That has never been talked about. That's not what this is about for me. This is about the direction of the country. This is about breaking up this Washington cartel with an outsider. And the country's first. What happens after that is fine if I'm asked. Of course, when the president asks you to serve, you serve.
You think you could be useful in a role in a Trump administration?
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind I could be.
Yeah. Let me ask you a final question, as long as I got you here. So in the last week, Judge John Seifert, Milwaukee County Circuit Court judge, says, I don't think I'm going to run for re-election, but I think I'm 90% sure I'm going to run for Milwaukee County Sheriff because David Clark's spending too much time campaigning for Donald Trump and appearing on Fox News and not enough time attending to administrative duties. You have any reaction to that?
Yeah, look, Seifert's a cartoon, okay? He can run for sheriff. Anybody can run for. You can run for sheriff. I welcome that. That's kind of what this whole thing about in terms of representative democracy. I'm 2 years away. All right, I'm at the midpoint of my term here, and I'm focused on what I'm supposed to be doing today. Obviously, if Judge Seifert is making these claims of what I'm doing, then he must be stalking me, or he must be suffering from what I call Clark derangement syndrome. I'm living rent-free in his head.
Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark, a strong supporter of Donald Trump. We appreciate you being on the program today.
Blue Lives Matter.
Next on Up Front, the Trump effect down ballot. I'll be asking Republican Congressman Reed Ribble what the top of the ticket might mean for the rest of the ballot. And later, election security. Will hacking be a concern on Election Day?
Up Front with Mike Goucher, brought to you by the American Transmission Company and the Wisconsin Corn Growers Association.
Donald Trump says he's unshackled, and he's engaging in a war of words with prominent Republicans, most notably House Speaker and Wisconsin Congressman Paul Ryan. When this election is over, what happens next for the GOP? How do they govern? I recently asked Wisconsin Republican Congressman Reed Ribble, who was among the first Republicans to say he'd never vote for Trump. Ribble is retiring from Congress after this term. Congressman Ribble, good to have you back on the program.
It's good to be here, Mike. Thanks.
So, a long time ago, you said you would not vote for Donald Trump. What do you think of that decision today?
I'm still there. I'm exactly at the same place I was a year ago when I made this decision. I I did the best I could during the primary to help encourage others to choose a different nominee, but this is who Republican primary voters have selected, and he's the Republican nominee. Difficult for me. I can't get there, but I certainly don't condemn anybody who does.
You said you can't get there in part because of the tone of this campaign, the way it's been waged.
Yeah, I just think that the tone of the presidential politics, but I think the tone of generally about politics in this country is bad. And what happens when you have this very divisive nature of a campaign is not what's actually going on in the moment, but how do you govern post-election? That's the
You're
real,
worried about the future.
I'm very worried about the future because you've kind of divided America in two, where both sides just literally hate the other candidate, the other party. It's not how we solve problems in this country. I think it's all bad.
You haven't decided who you're going to vote for.
Not yet. I'll probably figure that out the minute I walk in the voting booth. You know, I'm a big fan of Evan McMullin. I know he's been on your show, and I've spoken with Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate, and so we're taking a look at our options there.
I heard you tell an interesting story the other day, and this sort of goes to the tone of the race. And you described yourself as someone who is not a moral relativist.
Yeah.
Which I thought was an interesting comment. What did you mean by that?
Well, what I mean is I think that there are boundaries that we have in how we live our lives, that there are certain moral codes that we try to live our lives by. I don't think morality is relative. I think it is absolutely static. There's a right and there's a wrong to things. And when you look at some of the language that's been used and that we've been hearing out of presidential candidates, it's a bridge too far for my Baptist roots to go.
You said you have family members who are preachers.
And my father, and I've got 3 brothers that are still pastors today, and I'm going to be held accountable to them for sure.
So here's the big question, the great unknown. What does the top of the ticket do to the rest of the ticket? Do we know what's your feeling about that?
I actually believe that this is a very different presidential race, and I think that the top of the ticket pull or drag is not going to be as severe as it is in other elections, particularly on the Republican side. Donald Trump is an entity unto himself. He hasn't ever served in politics before, and he's coming with a different type of message that Republicans haven't heard before. It's more of an anti-trade populist message that's totally different than what Republican politics have looked like. And I think the voters will make a distinction between voting for that presidential candidate that they prefer and down ballot races.
Do you see the party changing? Are we witnessing an historic change in the Republican Party?
I think it's possible, but I'm not sure, and only history will tell it as it bears itself out in the future. But it's possible that it could be, because this populist element within the party is relatively large. And anti-trade, anti-immigrant movement in the country that's kind of congealed and is there holding up Donald Trump's candidacy. And it may have some impact, broader implications post-election. I think Republicans are going to have to figure that out after the election once they see the results.
Final question. What has not been talked about in this campaign that you wish had been discussed?
Well, virtually every single issue of importance in the country, but probably the most predominant one is our national debt. This was a primary thing in the last 2 presidential elections. It's not gotten better. I mean, we're $19 trillion in debt today, and so I think that this should elevate to the forefront of the national discussion, and I would like to see that happen.
You want to hear the candidates talk about Social Security, for instance. You have a plan for that, but you don't feel there's been any real discussion
No,
of
there
that.
hasn't been. There's been a lot of pandering, actually, from both candidates on it. And I would rather see, well, okay, how do you put meat on those bones and actually turn this into a policy that the American people can measure? But we've not seen that yet.
Congressman Reed Ribble, the Republican from the 8th Congressional District. It's good to have you back on the program.
Hey, good to be with you, Mike.
Thanks very much.
At least 20 states have reported hacking attempts on their election systems. What's being done to safeguard our system in Wisconsin? I'll ask the state's elections administrator. That's when Up Front continues. There's a new concern this election: hacking. Homeland Security officials say there have been hacking attempts on election systems in more than 20 states this year. Hackers who are possibly Russian have gone after voter registration databases and other online systems. They have not breached any voting or vote counting machines that will be used on November 8th. Today on Upfront, we're looking at election security and asking what's being done to safeguard it. We're joined now by Mike Haas, the administrator for the Wisconsin Elections Commission, and he's at our Madison affiliate, WKOW-TV. Mike Haas, it's good to have you on the program. First of all, let me begin by asking you whether Wisconsin has seen any signs of anyone trying to hack into either our voter registration database or even election machines here.
No, it's good to be with you, Mike. We have not seen that in Wisconsin. We have a lot of security provisions in place both at the federal and state level, and we have been assured that our voter registration system has not been hacked. There's not been an attempt to hack into it. As you noted, there are a couple states, Arizona and Illinois specifically, who have had their voter registration systems hacked into.
Is that the greatest concern, Mike, the voter registration database?
That's one of the concerns. I think we look at preparing for this election. As you mentioned, there's been a lot of talk about hacking and rigging elections. It is something a little bit fairly new. The voter registration system contains information about all Wisconsin voters, their voter registration information, their voter participation. Somebody hacking into that system, potentially it might affect the printing of poll books. But as I said, I think that we are well prepared to secure that information for the election.
You mentioned that you think you're prepared. Have you been working with Homeland Security to address this?
Exactly. We are in a partnership with many state and federal agencies. We hosted a few weeks ago a meeting with representatives of the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, our Department of Justice in Wisconsin, along with the Department of Administration, which hosts and provides security for all of our IT applications. They have scanned our systems, as has Homeland Security, and assured us that everything is in order. But we wanted to meet to get everybody on the same page, to establish contacts and protocol in case there are any incidents that need to be coordinated on Election Day.
How much responsibility will be on the shoulders of the clerks, the election clerks, on election night, for instance?
Well, Wisconsin has a very decentralized election administration system. We have 1,854 municipal clerks. They're responsible for conducting the election in each municipality. Everything from recruiting poll workers, making sure the voting equipment is in place and programmed and secure, and securing the ballots and on election night and transmitting results to the county clerks.
So let's break this into two parts. There are the concerns about the voter registration database, but on election night, we keep hearing talk about could vote counts somehow be compromised by hackers. What's your response to that?
We have a couple of characteristics in Wisconsin that help prevent things like that occurring. One is, as I mentioned, it's a very decentralized system. Yeah. We have a number of voting systems in place in Wisconsin. So that decentralization helps to prevent against a coordinated attack. The other important point to keep in mind is that voting equipment is not connected to the internet. It would take somebody having physical access to the voting equipment and the actual memory devices that that tally the votes and keep the voting totals. And there are procedures in place for the election workers, the poll workers, to make sure that that equipment is secured all the way up to the election and on Election Day.
Mike Haas, you've been involved in helping administer Wisconsin elections for some time. You know this turf. Give me your sense of where we are at this moment in our history. Is this sort of the brave new world, this fear of hacking, or is it something that's been talked about for a while now?
You know, I think it's been talked about in the last couple of election cycles, but this is certainly the most high profile that this issue has been. It's at the top of every election administrator's list for preparing, and that's the best we can do, is prepare our systems, prepare our staff, prepare clerks, and prepare voters for a smooth election day. And election administrators, election professionals wear a lot of hats. One of them is to make sure that IT functions are working smoothly and that everything is secure. And it is a new phenomenon to be worrying about possible foreign actors affecting an election. But as I said, I think that we are as prepared as we can be in Wisconsin.
Mike Haas is the administrator for the Wisconsin Elections Commission. We appreciate your time today. Thanks very much for being with us.
Good to be with you, Mike.
And our editorial partner, WisPolitics.com, has coverage of the voter ID case heard in federal court last week. You'll find it on the election blog at WisPolitics.com. Coming up next, a tighter race for U.S. Senate in Wisconsin as we head into the final debate. The wildly unpredictable presidential contest continues to dominate the headlines, but Wisconsin's U.S. Senate race appears to be turning into the close, hard-fought contest many political observers had thought it would be. Former Senator Russ Feingold has led incumbent Ron Johnson in the polls for much of the year, prompting some national pundits to suggest the state was no longer a toss-up, but a likely Democratic pickup. But polls released last week suggested the race was far from over. A Marquette Law School survey showed Feingold with only a 2-point lead over Johnson. That's within the margin of error. Friday night, Johnson and Feingold held their first of 2 debates, an event sponsored by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association. And Tuesday night, on this Upfront station, you could see the second and final face-to-face meeting. It's a 90-minute conversation with the candidates. The event starts at 8:30. I'll be the moderator, and we'll be tackling a range of issues that are important to Wisconsin voters. In addition to the television broadcast, the event will be streamed live on WISN.com. We hope you'll join us. Thanks for being with us today. I'm Mike Goucher, and I'll see you again next week on Upfront.